To weigh in on this matter, we're now joined by Dr. Charles Sinkala, International Relations Consultant, for more on this conversation, and he joins us via our video link. Dr. Charles, thank you so much for joining us this evening here on SABC News. Perhaps let's start off with just the latest. What do you make of this year's polls in the DRC?
Well, Mbali, thank you very much for having me, and greetings to your viewers. It's quite disappointing, Mbali, that we still see such things as late delivery of logistics for the elections. You know, it is as if it means that the government and especially the Independent Electoral Commission only realized last week that they're supposed to host an election. And, you know, this is quite unfortunate that the level ground is not being played. We thought that each and every election that shall be hosted in Democratic Republic of Congo shall bring some change to learn from certain mistakes of such logistics. You remember very well, leading to the 2018, even the delay by Joseph Kabila's regime to host elections. I think at one time he even cited that they do not have money in the country. It's something which is laughable when we talk about a mineral-rich nation in the continent.
And one would say that, you know, when you point out to logistical challenges, I mean, you've known about these elections for quite some time. You know, one would say that, you know, this is totally unacceptable.
It is definitely unacceptable, you know, because, you know, this is a constitutional right for every citizen of the Democratic Republic of Congo. And I think the Constitution is supreme. You know, they have to respect the Constitution. The president, whoever is incumbent, Felix Tshisekedi, was supposed to ensure that the Independent Electoral Commission, if it is independent, is provided with the information and logistical issues to cater for at least more than 50% of the 100 million people to be represented at the electoral vote. But, you know, all in all, we can say all of this, but one will also understand that in a game of war, one of the other strategies for the incumbent is to weaken up the opposition, to make sure that they've got a very difficult task for them to win the election. And I think these are some of the maneuvers that they delay some certain areas. But of course, the eastern part of Democratic Republic of Congo, especially in the Benin and as well as on the Zimba side, on the eastern part, there's conflicts there because of the minerals which are there. Organizations such as the United Nations, they are there, pretending to keep the peace when there is no peace. There is also Bill Clinton Foundation, it is there. They are mining minerals and gold. And also private and military security companies who are actually protecting any citizen of the Democratic Republic of Congo within those constituencies to exercise their rights. And I think some of it will be excluded from these polls.
And when it comes to elections, credibility always comes to the fore. And I mean, we've seen the irregularities that are taking place. So we know that some voting stations never opened. We also know that some voting machines, you know, were malfunctioning, you know. So what do you make of when it comes to the credibility of these elections?
Bali, when we talk about the credibility, we're talking about having a free and fair elections where also the losers shall concede and congratulate the leader who will win the elections, to say, let's work together to rebuild the country. But in the absence of credibility and the free and fair elections, these aggrieves opposition political parties, including citizens of the country, because of certain irregularities. Now you can see, for instance, now Democratic Republic of Congo and all the Congolese now have joined nations such as Nigeria, where they have to rerun now for the next day. You know, you can't have elections in 2 days. I've never seen an exam where you write in 2 days the same exam and they give you others. It's automatically the credibility there is eliminated. So, but in any case, you know, elections, especially in Africa, they cannot be completely credible. because of certain things and logistical issues, and as well as other third parties who play a big role in terms of funding the preferred candidates. And if we get 75% of the credibility or 65% of credibility, at least we've got a sense of moving forward. The dust shall settle, and I think they'll wait for the next elections.
And there's a lot at stake here when it comes to these elections. And when you look at how they have been carried out, I mean, would you say that this is something that you expected that would take place in the DRC?
Well, to some extent, yes, I see most analysts, and I think I share the same view that we expected such a division, especially from the opposition political parties, how can we differ to have at least more than 20 candidates? That is unprecedented in the democratic dispensation as we build Africa. We expected to copy and paste from, look what happens in the United Kingdom, look what happened in the US, Netherlands, and many others. The competition is squared into a small number. At least we've got many people who agree to each other. But having differences, we saw what happened as well in Nigeria and as well as in Zimbabwe, where there was about 51 presidential candidates. I think this also weakens up the opposition for them uniting in terms of fielding up one candidate. But I saw the presidential candidate, Mose Katumbi, has been supported by 4 other candidates who actually dropped down from the rest. But still, the conducive environment, it is unpredictable, as we have seen in Liberia. The George Weah was only given 1 term. So we shall see what happens as they have concluded today the elections, and they will start counting, and we see who will be the best candidate among the all.
And coming to exactly that, the best candidate, what are your predictions when it comes to the outcomes of these elections? Do you think that, the DRC will find themselves with a new president, or do you think the incumbent will retain his position as the president of the DRC?
Well, we hope, from our side and my view that, Felix Tshisekedi may be given a chance to complete his 2 terms in office, to conclude what he started. And I think there is a sector of society within Democratic Republic of Congo, especially in Kinshasa and Lubumbashi, the 2 big cities, that he should continue. But if you go to the Katanga province and also to the eastern part where it is infested with the war and the rebel leaders there, they feel that he should end, his term at this point. And I think looking at the history, Mose Katumbi was prevented in the last elections. He never attended. And I think I saw from what happened from some information from Zambia, they were pointing out that he's a Zambian, he's not a Congolese, but the Zambian government cleared that he's not a Zambian citizen. But, we have also Martin Fayulu, who came second in the 2018-2019 elections. But it's very difficult to predict who's going to win. But I see as well that early hours yesterday, it was a laughable matter that certain people from society in DRC, they published some election results even before the elections, the casting of the votes started, that Mose Katumbi was leading. And they wouldn't be surprised if it takes a day.
All right, then, Dr. Charles, thank you so much for your contribution tonight here on The Late Edition. That is Dr. Charles Sinkala, International Relations Consultant, just giving us his insight there when it comes to the elections taking place in the Democratic Republic of Congo.